From out-of-bounds spots to powerful combos, here are 10 3/4 things in Destiny 2 that you might not know. Depending on how much Onslaught you play, you might not have noticed this very subtle detail about your invasions. Have you ever noticed that the game seems to randomly choose which door you enter on the Pyramid Ship boss room? Well, it turns out it's not random. Your map choice actually determines which hallway, and by extension, which jumping challenge your entry point for your Pyramid Ship is. The one seen here is from Vostok, and the other two are from Midtown and the Moth Yards. This also could imply that Bungie isn't planning on adding any future maps, being that there's only 3 doors, which is a bit of a bummer because, I think everybody can agree, Onslaught's pretty awesome. How much effort are you putting in to landing the battery into the ADU when you throw them? If you're actually taking time to line up the shots, you're probably wasting your time. You see, the ADU batteries only seem to check for just line of sight, meaning that so long as you could theoretically shoot the ADU from where you're standing, the battery will likely land, assuming the gap in between the middle of the ADU and the wide body of the battery is small enough for it to fit through. Speaking of line of sight checks, the turrets will cease fire if you're blocking their line of sight. And not just with the obvious stuff like Titan barricades and stasis walls. Your Guardian's body will also prevent them from doing their job or have them switch to a different available target. So if you want to maximize their DPS on a target you are also throwing hands with, stand at an angle to let them get their work done. Speaking of why turrets are the best, their line of sight check is pretty darn long, which means that if one of them spawns in a location that could theoretically fire on enemies from a different ADU point, I absolutely advise investing in it. Even if they don't punch out that much extra damage overall, if they happen to score a kill on, let's say, an explosive enemy, that could mean an entire platoon of enemies just got stuffed by a single turret that wasn't even in your normal ADU defense line. Like this one on Vostok is a personal favorite of mine. Speaking of Vostok, if you have an extra long-range weapon, let's say like a scout or a sniper, follow this path here to get yourself into some truly disgusting locations outside of the normal bounds of this map. Take a look. Hey, we're halfway through and I am legally obligated to ask you to subscribe or YouTube will come for me and my family. It's great to have this series back from the new stuff that was added into the game, and if you have something others might not know, drop it in the comments and we might use it. Did you know that the pyramid ships are actually under the ground? Yep, when you teleport out and use the out of bounds path that you can see here, you can clearly see the underside of Vostok. Oh, and you can get out of bounds too. Neat. We've covered this little known secret in the past, but never has it been more applicable than it is right now. Pick-upable items like the ADU batteries that have a dedicated melee animation are considered powered melee kills when defeating enemies. This is mostly useless as their attack is pretty weak, but on certain melee-focused builds, or even if you want a way to proc armor mods such as heavy-handed to get a free orb of power, this can be a really cheap way to get some pretty solid value out of them. Stasis and Strand have proven to be highly effective subclass options for Onslaught's heavy crowd control orientated challenges. But if you're a hunter, you need to be careful when using your Strand clone dodge aspect. The Threaded Spectre may seem like a way of creating a lime flavored version of the Sweeper bot decoys, but not to the turrets. For whatever reason, the turrets consider the Strand clones hostile and will go out of their way to target them, especially if they are close to your ADU. This not only destroys some of the utility of the clone's distraction, but also the turret's potential damage. This is absolutely worth keeping in mind. This next one has been making its rounds lately, so it's worth mentioning here. You can duplicate the ADU batteries by using your class ability right as you throw them. This works on all subclasses, but it's easiest and most repeatable on hunters. Double heals is nice, but part of me wonders if this would work with the Radiant Dance machines for potentially infinite heals. Let me know in the comments if you tried this, I'm curious. Like we already mentioned, Stasis is pretty good in Onslaught, and if you are interested in trying an off-meta combo, this trick is incredibly helpful. Diamond Lance will proc a Titan's Heart of Inmost Light. By simply throwing a Diamond Lance from the namesake aspect, you can get increased damage and regen on all of your abilities, including of course your grenades and your normal melee. Another fact that's been making its rounds is that these ADU batteries don't really care about what they're hitting in terms of healing them. So long as the ADU battery hits a target, it will just heal that target, which actually includes enemies. So if you are going to be trying to throw that ADU battery through a crowded group of enemies, perhaps maybe wait a little bit longer till the path is a tad bit more clear, because you could be inadvertently making something a lot tankier or a lot more difficult to deal with for no real reason, not to mention it's blocking your shot. If you want more funny Titan builds like the one you saw in this video, check out this video here. Subscribe or I'll make your drinking water lukewarm. Bless your faces and deuces.